The world has changed a lot in the past few weeks through the bizarre events unfolding in America, culminating on the 28th of February when Zelensky was hosted in the Oval Office, only to be yelled at and berated by the president and vice president, and also openly mocked for not wearing a suit by Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, who was also there for some reason.
What was your second question?
My second question for President Zelensky. Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such.
This spectacle was as amusing as it was horrifying. The US president and vice president, supposedly the leaders of the free, democratic world, in control of the most powerful military force on the planet and the largest economy, yelling and bickering at the leader of a nation under attack by Russia, publicly in front of cameras in the Oval Office. Many people are attempting to analyze this situation, rationalize it. What were Trump and Vance playing at? Was this a trap deliberately set? What kind of backwards 4D chess move was this from the Trump administration? In my opinion, these attempts at analysis are fine, but I think I have an easier method of making sense of the situation. Now please keep in mind these are only my preliminary thoughts, and I didn't have the time yet to flesh them out properly. But due to how quickly everything is changing, I've decided to make this video anyway. So you tell me if the following makes sense to you. As far as I can see, the Trump administration's behavior can be explained by three interacting internal forces. These are fascist, corporatist, and incompetent. The fascist wing contains all the far-right lunatics, your neo-Nazis, Christian fascists, and so on. Their ideal world is that of 1950s vacuum cleaner commercials. Mom, dad, suburbs, 2.5 children, all white neighborhoods, which they want to bring about through a LARPy traditional conservative dictatorship. To them, democracy, free speech, freedom of religion, and so on are just tools to exploit to the aforementioned end. And they will throw away all those ideals the second they no longer need to pretend to love them. The corporatist wing contains your wannabe oligarchs. People who want to turn the US into a corporation with a government attached, basically. An unregulated playpen for billionaires where they can do whatever they want. Corporatists seek to subvert the government, then replace its functions, thereby becoming the de facto government themselves. For more details, see the cyberpunk genre as a whole. And then we have the incompetent wing, which is mostly Trump and his ego. Trump is emotional, rather unintelligent, and a narcissist. He's basically a massive liability for the fascists and corporatists, but Trump also happens to be the face of their movement. Without Trump, there is no MAGA. There is no enacting Project 2025, and there is no turning America into an oligarchy, so they have to put up with him. They can control him to some extent, but sometimes Trump will just go his own way no matter what. Trump's incompetence also trickles down the ranks in a way, since they hire people based on loyalty to Trump, not skill. This creates a sort of weird, swaying, dead weight within the system, like water sloshing around inside a ship's hull, making it prone to wild, unexpected swings for seemingly no reason. So this would be incompetence, the wild card of the three wings. And appealing to just one at a time will not work. Keir Starmer has recently visited the US, where he put on a frankly embarrassing performance of bootlicking and groveling.
Said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right.
Trying his absolute best to suck up to Trump. Did it work? Not really. Why? Because Starmer tried appealing to the incompetence, not the fascism or corporatism. Zelensky floated the mineral deal to Trump early on. Help us and we'll make some of our rare earth metals available to you. Did it work? No. Why? Because Zelensky only appealed to the corporatists, not the fascists or the incompetent. Viktor Orban has been orbiting Trump and his people for almost a decade, trying to posture as a fellow warrior for white civilization, hoping to get political support for his authoritarian project back home. Does it work? No, because Orban only appeals to the fascists, not the corporatists or the incompetent. In order to deal with the Trump administration, you have to appeal to all three wings at the same time. But here's the kicker. If you can offer something meaningful that both fascists, corporatists, and the incompetent will favor, if you do something that appeases all three simultaneously, then you will have become indistinguishable from them. You are playing their game. You are in their framework. You will have made a deal with the devil, essentially, with no going back. Notably, Elon Musk is the perfect combination of the three three wings, being both fascist, corporatist, and incompetent. Not coincidentally, the only person who can appeal nearly perfectly to all three wings at the same time is Vladimir Putin. If you wonder why the Trump administration is so drawn to Russia, this is why. Russia is a dictatorship with sham elections. It leans increasingly heavily into far-right Christian nationalism, where its leader pretends to be a devout believer while also furnishing his palace with striptease poles. Russia is also hyper-capitalist. The owner class below Putin is composed of oligarchs heading large corporations in a system that is essentially legalized cartelling and corruption, fully plugged into the neoliberal world economy, where the dream of all those below the owners, the mid and low-level managerial class, is to hoard enough public money so they can spend their days in a gaudy mansion in Dubai. The Russian elite also knows how to handle incompetent leaders. Putin is used to dealing with tin-pot dictators in their satellite states and easily finds common ground with Trump. He had also received official KGB training on how to deal with authoritarian, narcissistic leaders. Therefore, it is no wonder that the Trump administration and Russia constantly keep gravitating towards each other. So, as the remaining bastions of the free, democratic world, how do you counter this? What do we do? Quite simply, we need to address the systemic issue that gave rise to the Trump administration and most other far-right movements in the West. But what would that be? Well, as they say, it's the economy, stupid. Wealth inequality is rising. The rich get richer while everyone else gets poorer. Prices are up, inflation is up, your salary isn't. All the while, billionaires' wealth is increasing at a record pace. People are not idiots, and they see all that happening. But they can't always articulate their negative feelings in any coherent political form. So people's negative feelings, the bad vibes if you will, manifest in general anti-elitism and anti-intellectualism, like an extremely high fever that also damages your body, not just the virus inside you. But it doesn't have to be this way. All this anger and desire for change can be channeled into a positive and constructive political movement. Only that specific political movement has been dead for some time in most Western countries. We are talking about leftism, which for many regular people has become an actual slur. Footage of leftist meetings and conferences go viral because of how ridiculous they get.
If we want to defeat capitalism, we are going to need a party that will organize working people to fight for the demands that we want and to win socialism. Thank you so much.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Online leftist spaces are filled with terminally online young adults engaging in a purity race to the bottom, where they will excise anyone from the community whom they don't deem enough of a believer. Basically, with some exceptions, leftism across the West ceased to be a political movement, and instead became a loose network of afternoon clubs for socially maladjusted young adults, who think they are better than everyone else. The liberals, those stupid normies, those blue-pilled idiots who fail to realize that North Korea is actually a secret workers' paradise, and also the Holodomor didn't happen, Assad didn't guess his own people, Stalin was based, Trotsky deserved to die, China is socialist, the Uyghur concentration camps are Western propaganda, Ukraine is run by Nazis, the Donetsk People's Republic is a bastion against American imperialism, the Soviet Union was democratic, nothing happened in 1956 Budapest or 1968 Prague, and even if something did happen, it was a fight against a fascist counter-revolution, and so on and so forth. Complete lunacy, an absolute non-starter. The only reason they don't deny the Holocaust is because the people doing it called themselves Nazis instead of communists. Imagine if the National Socialists called themselves the Aryan Communists instead, while also doing the Holocaust. We would have lefties today going, the Holocaust was State Department propaganda to justify the American Empire's invasion of Europe in order to save their bourgeoisie. The Allies were fascists who destroyed based Germany only because they were building communism with German characteristics and dared to oppose the class of capitalistic parasites ruining German socialism with national characteristics from within. This sounds ridiculous, but this is exactly what they say about the Soviets, Stalin's ethnic purges, and the gulags. So yeah, this is much of leftism today in the Western world. Their ideology is warped beyond recognition, locked in a downward purity spiral, condemned to irrelevance and ineffectiveness. A bucket of bitter, angry, and mentally unwell crabs, thoroughly compromised by Russian propaganda and poisoned by an aimless, axiomatic hatred for America. Now don't get me wrong, right now hating America in its current form is the most patriotic thing anyone can do. fuck America. But there is a difference to this and axiomatic hatred. Compare hating a woman because she did something horrible versus hating her because you are a bitter incel. The first kind of hatred is focused. It is a result of her actions, and ideally you want her to fess up and make things right so you can stop hating her. The incel's hatred is axiomatic. The horrible thing the woman did is just another justification for the incel's irrational hatred for her. There is nothing she can do to change the incel's mind. The incel's hatred is not rational or productive. It doesn't lead anywhere, except for giving him a fake sense of superiority as he continues to wallow in his own misery. Hating America as an axiom, also known as American diabolism, is not good enough, especially if you refuse to extend the same criticism towards Russia, China, or even North Korea. This is why, for example, when discussing atrocities committed by the Chinese government, commentators like Hassan Abi, who are normally so eager to rag on the US, suddenly talk like Xi Jinping is standing right behind them with a gun to their heads.
How do we feel about Taiwan, Hassan? China or not China?
Taiwan?
Or is it China or not China?
That's the American policy. Whatever the American policy is, whatever the American perspective is.
What's your opinion? You really won't say?
No, I'm saying it's like one country, two systems, you know?
No, it's not. It's two different countries.
Really?
Taiwan and China.
Is that according to American foreign policy?
No, what's your opinion? What's your opinion? Taiwan independent?
My opinion on Taiwan is that Taiwan is the Chinese concept of Taiwan should remain in the hands of the people in Taiwan who
so
believe
therefore it's independent.
Who for the record, for the most part, just believe to not disrupt the ongoing relations with.
Why are you being
China.
so carefully footed around
Because
this?
I know that there's going to be a subreddit.
You cannot build anything productive on American diabolism. Insular social clubs? Yes. Political movements? No. But in order to build a lasting, effective opposition to the wave of new authoritarianism emanating from the White House, we need a political movement that addresses issues on a systemic level, that is friendly, agreeable, and at the everyday person's eye level. So less, educate yourself normie, go read theory, and more, you're right, things are getting worse for the bottom 90%. Here, take a look at these cool ideas for fixing that. There is plenty of political capital out there a leftist movement could build on. Our current state is the natural territory of the political left. But where are they? In their insular social clubs, busy excising people for thinking the Holodomor was real. Such gatekeepers obsessed with ideological purity are the death of any political movement. They are neuter, ineffectual, inert, useless, because they are not interested in building a political movement. They want tiny, exclusive social clubs where they get to feel smart and special. They are the chosen ones who took the red pill and rose above the ocean of clueless normies. They have figured out the perfect form of government. They are on top of the world intellectually, and they don't want anyone else in there who isn't as ideologically pure as they are. They don't want their ideas to become widespread and popular, because then leftism would be mainstream, and they would no longer feel special for subscribing to it. So what should a good leftist movement look like? Bernie Sanders. Period. No purity testing, no gatekeeping, no being pro-China or pro-Russia, no American diabolism. Also, please drop the lefty academic terms. They just make all of you sound like a bunch of weirdos. Compare and contrast. The price of eggs went up. Those corporations is just a bunch of snake oil thieves, I tell you what. Ugh, Aunt Mary. See, that's why the workers must seize the means of production to stop the extraction of the value of their labor by the bourgeoisie. Aunt Mary, that's exactly right. Now how about we fix this with some good old super capitalism? It's like normal capitalism, but instead of filling boardrooms with those lazy, latte drinking, good for nothing suits, you put the workers in there. Imagine not having your idiot boss at your job. I just think you and your colleagues are smart enough to run that ship on your own and do it better even. Right, okay, you get the idea. As far as I can see, democracy is in a death spiral right now. Corporatism and authoritarianism are converging, and centrists just don't have an answer to this. The left does. A type of popular, accessible, agreeable, relatable left that seeks to include instead of gatekeeping, that draws you in instead of blowing you off, that is more than happy to explain their policies in everyday terms instead of telling you to read century-old theory they themselves haven't read, and one that does not have bizarre sympathies for fascist dictatorships like Russia or China. So basically, Bernie Sanders. But in every Western country. This is what we need, in my opinion, to effectively oppose the Trump administration and its allies across the globe.